What's up? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis Sickle, and in this video, we're going to talk about how to choose the best 529 plan. And as you can see from the picture behind me, I have 4 kids, and we actually have another one on the way. So I am in this thing for the long haul, and I have been saving into their 529 plans. And I've done updates in videos on this channel. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to get those updates because things do change. So let's go ahead and jump right into the 6 points to make this as simple as possible. I've gotten it down to 6 points that will hopefully make this process a lot easier and a lot clearer for you to understand. So let's go ahead and get started. So number 1 is don't overthink this. Just start to save into a plan. And I already have 3 529 plans set up for each one of my kids behind me. We haven't set up the 5th one yet, but I have the 529 plans set up and I have 3 of them because things change. Some plans are better one year. Some plans are better the next year. Things will change on you and that's okay. But at the end of the day, you need to start putting that money into a 529 plan and start that compound growth. So you make that investment, it gets invested and it starts to grow over time. I find that's one of the biggest hurdles for people is just starting. Don't overthink it. If you make a mistake, we can always roll it into another 529 plan or just open up a second 529 plan. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but I do encourage everyone just to start putting the money into that 529 plan, even if it's the minimum, if it's the absolute minimum. Is it worth it? Absolutely. I talk about a ton of strategies on this channel to make it worth it no matter when you start using your 529 plan. Even if you make the contribution today and you want to spend that money tomorrow, there could be a way that you could still get a tax benefit. So really and truly start saving into your 529 plan. Number 2 is that plans do change. So just be aware of that. You could start a plan that you think, you know what, I've done my research. I've spent hours at looking at these plans and this one has the best cost, the best performance. It's going to give me some tax benefits, everything under the sun that you may or may not have already heard about 529 plans, but plans change. And when they do, it's okay to make changes. Even if you spent all those hours, because I spent a ton of time looking at this stuff and things change to my surprise that a plan that I did not think was very good, all of a sudden they made some investment changes, some fee adjustments, and all of a sudden that is the best plan at that particular time. So again, don't overthink it and just choose that plan, but understand that things change. And when those things change, we're just going to go ahead and make those adjustments. Again, don't overthink this. Start to save, choose a plan. And if things change, you can make the decision to make that change at that time. So go ahead and get started. Now, number 3 on this list is understanding the different types of plans. And primarily, there's 2 types. One is the prepaid plan, which works a lot like an annuity. They don't really talk about that, but it works a lot like an annuity. And that means you're going to save a set amount and you're going to get a set benefit at a future date. Now that benefit is usually tied to the average cost of the college or just the college costs for the state that you're choosing. That is the prepaid plans. On the other side, and that's really what I'm talking about here, are the savings plans. And those are the plans where you're going to put the money into the plan, typically after tax. You're going to put it in after tax. You're going to put it into an investment. That investment will hopefully grow over time. And then you'll have that tax benefit because it will be tax-free as long as you use it for qualifying expenses. That is the type of plan that we're talking about in this video. And really on this channel, I talk more about the savings plan as a traditional type of investment with a tax kind of shell around the 529 plan. And that's basically what that is. So it's an investment that hopefully will grow over time. Of course, you have risk in the market, but hopefully will grow over time. And then you can use those expenses or use those investments for those qualifying expenses. So those are the 2 types of plans in general, but we're going to be talking about the savings plan. Number 4 on my list are the tax benefits with deductions or credits. So sometimes with some of the plans, and this is really where you can start to see if your state, first, if it has an income tax, because that's where it's at. It doesn't happen on the federal level. This happens at the state level with credits and deductions. So with a deduction, that will reduce your taxable income for your state taxes. Again, that's if you have them. So these are those states that not only have a state income tax, but have a tax benefit for using their own state's 529 plan. Now, I'm going to say that again because not every state has this. You first have to have a state income tax. So if you do, then the second thing you want to take a look at is, does your plan offer a tax benefit in the form of a credit or a deduction? Now, if it does, there's a good chance that's the plan that you should choose. Now, I say good chance. That means that plan really probably has to be terrible relative to other plans not to outweigh the benefits of using an other state's plan. So I also want to say that right now, that you can use any plan in the entire country that you want. It's not limited to just your state. A lot of people get confused because they see that the 529 plans are sponsored by states, but that does not mean you can only use your own state's 529 plan. But it does mean that if you are offered a tax benefit on your state income taxes, then you might want to use your own state's 529 plan. Now, credits and deductions. So the deduction will lower your taxable income. Easy math. Let's say you make $100,000 and you have a state income tax benefit to use your own state's 529 plan of $5,000, like New York has. Then that means instead of paying taxes on $100,000, if you put in $5,000 into the 529 plan, you'd only be paying taxes on $95,000. That is a deduction. A credit, a tax credit, would go against your tax liability. So let's just say you have $100,000 and your taxes are, say, $6,000. And if you make a contribution into your 529 plan of, say, $2,000, that it will give you a tax credit of $2,000. That means if you had a $6,000 tax bill and a $2,000 credit, you'd actually only pay $4,000 in total taxes. So that is a much bigger benefit than a deduction. But in either case, it's just important that you understand the differences between credits and deductions. And of course, whether or not your state has a benefit to contribute to your own state's 529 plan. Not all states have this. So it's possible to have a state income tax and a 529 plan in your state and have no benefit to using your own state's 529 plan. But if you do, that's likely the plan that you're going to end up choosing. Number 5 on this list are the investment options, and probably this is where it gets the most confusing. A lot of people focus on the fees, and I'm fine with that. Focus on the fees, but don't just focus on the fees at the expense, no pun intended there, of the performance. Now, a lot of 529 plans share the same type of investments. A lot of them are using either the Vanguard or the dimensional funds. I'm seeing those in a lot of the different 529 plans. So a lot of them have the same investment options. But again, don't overlook it if you're just looking at the fees saying, oh, well, I'm paying 10 basis points versus 11 basis points. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I would just go back to number 1 and say, hey, have you started to save for your 529 plan? Now, if the difference is 10 basis points versus a whole percentage, that's a big deal. What's a basis point? 1 basis point or 100 basis points equals 1%. So 10 basis points is 10% of 1%. So hopefully that's clear to you, or maybe it's clear as mud, but that's how it works. That's what a basis point is. So for example, let me pull it up on the screen. So you can see here we have the New York 529 plan. I'm looking at the Forbes top plans that they've chosen, which I wouldn't put a lot of stock into, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you're seeing here is a fee of 0.0 or 0.13%. So that's less than 1%. So another way to say that would be 13 basis points or 13% of 1%. So that's what that is. So it's a very low fee. So, if it's, if you're looking at this saying $100, that's 13 cents. So 13 cents of every $100 is really what you're looking at. So hopefully that helps you understand how the fees work. But the investments is where it gets really complicated. I like to keep things really simple. If you're into saying, I just wanted to invest into like the S&P 500, I just want one fund, that you can usually find in a lot of the 529 plans. It gets a little bit more complicated when you're going to the age-based portfolios. And those portfolios get a little bit more conservative as you get closer to college. In my opinion, good in theory. In practice, I don't really like them because early on, a lot of them have bonds in the portfolio, even when you're 10, 12 years out from your actual investment goal. That's me personally. So I'm going to leave that kind of out of this video. I'm not going to get too much into the weeds of that, but that's what I would look for when I'm looking at these plans. I don't really care if they have 10,000 options. I don't really think that makes one plan better than the other. Because truthfully, I'm just going to choose 1, 2, or 3 or 4 options in the entire plan. So if a plan had only 6 options, but I wanted to use all 4 of them, 4 of the 6, then the plan's going to do what I need it to do. So that's kind of where I would look for as far as the investments go. But again, you're going to see a lot of the same funds. So really, it's kind of a moot topic. You don't really need to pay attention to, oh, does this plan have the investments that I want? Most of these plans will have similar investments. So it'll make it a little bit easier. So maybe you go back to looking at the fees. And if you really want to look at 1 basis point difference from one plan to the next, so be it. That's what I would take a look at. Again, I'm telling you not to lose sleep over it. Go to number 1, start investing. That's what you need to do. Number 6 on my list is the service. And this is kind of an interesting one. Some of these plans, and I say service, it's not like customer service only. It's how's the website designed? What's the minimum investment? So one thing that struck me about the Vanguard 529 plan, if you go to Vanguard's website thinking, hey, Vanguard's a great company to use for these 529s. You see them a ton of the 529s. And you might think, why don't I just go straight to Vanguard? Why don't I just use their 529 plan? Well, unfortunately, if you do and you're just starting out and you don't want to contribute $3,000 day one, then you would be out of luck because the Vanguard 529 plan has a minimum initial investment of $3,000, or at least that's what I saw at the recording of this video. However, you can get those same funds actually in some cases cheaper in other 529 plans. So look around. If you're wanting a particular fund family, that's what we call Vanguard, or dimensional funds, that'd be a fund family. Look around to get the same exact fund for a lower price, but not only a lower price, also a lower initial investment or a monthly contribution. Some have minimum contributions of $50. Some go to $25. They're really flexible. So you want to find the plan that works for you. And another thing for this service that I find kind of interesting, I haven't really used it to the fullest extent on my own 529 plans, but some of them will give you links. And these are links that you can pass out to friends and family who might want to make a contribution to your child's 529 plan, say for their birthdays or the holidays, or just, gifting some money to their 529 plan. And they don't necessarily need to give you the check, or they don't need to really get your account number. They can just use this link. So I kind of like that feature about some of these plans. I don't know if every single plan has it. I don't suspect they all do, but a lot of them are rolling this feature out. So I kind of put that into that last category of service. How easy is the website to navigate, and those monthly contributions. And also the plan maximums. Now, those are going to vary from state to state. They're based on the cost of college, and they're going to use their own state's costs. So that's really like the limit of the 529 plans. But they're right around like the $500,000 range. So you can put a ton of money into these things per beneficiary. But that again will vary from plan to plan. Some of them are 500, some of them are 550, depending on the cost. So that might be something if you're trying to really fund these for future generations, which you could use as an estate planning tool to fund a 529 plan. That is an option for you. But again, you want to take a look at that. And of course, the investment allocations, how are their portfolios designed? Not just the individual investments, but how they actually designing these portfolios. So for example, if you look at the 529 plan for New York, you're going to find that their plans, if I can show you here, the age-based, even in the individual portfolios, these are portfolios. Now they only have 2 funds here, but it's still a portfolio. And this has one fund, one fund, one fund. I guess a bunch of these have one fund, but this is a balanced portfolio that has 4 different funds. The amount of line items makes no difference at all. You can absolutely have the same diversification potential of a single fund that you could with even 4, 2, 5, 10, whatever. It doesn't really matter. There's not a direct correlation by that. Usually with more funds, you could potentially have more diversification, but not always. So again, it goes back to that. Do I really care if one plan has 100 options versus another one with 6? No, I just want to make sure it has the options that I want to use. That's really all that I care about. So again, don't overcomplicate this. Start to save into a plan that works for you. Start saving, but start with the plan that is, if you have a state income tax, look at your plan first. Otherwise, there's a ton of plans that are really head to head out there, whether it's the New York plan, the Utah plan, the Ohio plan, and even the Florida plan, which I'm going to do another video on, because in my opinion, that was one of those plans that was kind of low on the totem pole. They've made some adjustments to it and it's up there now. So you also won't find that on sites like like you just saw up here with Forbes and any of these, what's the best 529 plan? Florida's not even on here. And I would actually choose Florida. Ohio's here. I would choose Florida over some of the other plans. I chose Florida over the New York 529 plan. And, that's one that offers a state income tax. I'm not in New York, but that's a great plan. But I chose to choose the 529 from Florida over that plan because I like their fund options better. It's a little bit cheaper as of the recording of this video. Again, that could change. And this plan I haven't looked at. And the Bright Star, I haven't looked too much at. But if you look here, like why they chose this plan, and you start reading and saying, oh, they have low fees. Well, the 529 from Florida is actually significantly cheaper. The fund that I chose has no management fee. So that's 0. And New York's is 0.13%. And that's what you pay only. But in Florida, currently, it's 0.02. And that's it. That's the only thing that I'm paying. So again, I don't know, take it with a grain of salt. Even take this video with a grain of salt. You got to do your own research. You got to figure it out for yourself. But of course, if you have any questions on this stuff, let me know in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and we'll see you on the next one.